Good evening and welcome to the Tuesday Tea Time for St Andrews Golf Magazine. This week I'm joined by Les Bailey of Pro Golf Now, and hopefully Elizabeth Bethel, also of Pro Golf Now, will join later on. We'll start this week by talking about the big controversy in the world of golf this week. Ted Bishop, the chief of the PGA of America, and his ill-timed and ill-thought-out comments about Ian Poulter. No justification for what he said at all, and really, he didn't even have a point, did he, Les, really? Because
nah, I think he just he did something he shouldn't have done, and I think it cost him.
Well, definitely, and it doesn't look well. Give a good reflection on those within the hierarchy of the PGA if they're talking about players in that way, and the reference to him being a little girl, and it's not good when they've got the women's PGA starting next year, and
well, he's got 3 daughters too, and I'm just wondering, I watched a little bit of the interview this morning on the morning drive before I went to play golf, and he looks like a humble man that just maybe said something he shouldn't have said,
Sure, and everybody says things they regret after the event, but he's a guy in a very prominent position that will surely, he knows that the world's going to pick up on whatever he says very quickly, and he didn't even have a point, because Ian Poulter was just purely stating the situation between Garcia and Faldo as he saw it.
Yeah.
And he has experience of that firsthand, and Ted Bishop doesn't. So from that regard, he was no place to make those comments, and also the way he referred to Poulter as well, which was not good.
Yeah, that was the. I mean, he would have probably got a little flack anyway for just responding, but
yeah,
with that, he hired a lot of people,
Yeah, and it's not good. We've had a few incidents over the years where players have made comments they've regretted. Is the world we live in now, and you use social media, and if you use it in an incorrect manner, you're going to get caught out pretty quickly. So, but he's been removed from his position. Did he have a month left on his?
Yeah, he was gone in a month anyway, and the sad thing that I heard today, I was browsing around the internet just looking for, stuff on this deal, and it looks like he's probably going to lose his pension and everything, all of his. I think he was looking at probably a $800,000 to $900,000 a year salary that comes with being a former PGA of America president, and that's probably going to go away.
Well, I think that's a bit extreme.
Yeah,
on the flip side of things, I don't think that should be happening. But we don't know everything. But it would be a shame if that situation has caused that to happen. But surely a reprimand would have been enough. And and now he's been removed from his office with a month to go, and that should have been the end of it, really.
Well, there was, there's other, there's some interesting points brought up today too that I hadn't thought about, but I remember was, he came out pretty heavy against the USGA ruling to ban the anchored putters.
Mm.
He also was instrumental in running the PGA Championship into the late hours that it went to, when they had it was his decision to let McIlroy play up while Phil and Ricky Fowler were still playing, and he just tended to bungle a couple of things there that people are still, that now that's starting to come out again. Should have started the PGA Championship earlier that day, and Phil wasn't really happy about that decision to let them play up.
No, and the whole thing about preferred lies when basically the golf course was a lake. The way they ran that championship was pretty bad. and he is the man at the head of affairs, and he should take the rap. But I don't think losing your pension is.
No, that come from the statement that he made. He just absolutely ticked off the well, you know. I even wrote in a blog last week sometime that, you know, I don't know if you remember years ago when Newt Gingrich got in trouble for saying something in the political arena, but he actually came out and said, you know, that it was okay to pee in a swimming pool, but you just couldn't do it from the high dive, you know. So when you're in a prominent position like that, you gotta, you know, you gotta be a little bit more careful about what you say in public.
Most definitely, and talking of somebody that's prominent and has had things said about him in the past, Tiger Woods is now practicing again, and we obviously don't know the extent of his recovery, but it looks perhaps that he's on course to play in his tournament at the start of December.
Yeah, I'm actually, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing him come back, but I'm also very interested in seeing what he's going to do to fix his golf swing, which I don't think has anything to do with his back. No. But, you know, there's definitely affects his back affects his golf swing, but, I mean, he was double-crossing the driver a long time before he had the back trouble.
Sure, and obviously it's going to be interesting now to look, and all the discussion will be about who's going to be his new coach, if he's going to have one. And that will start up again as we get closer and closer to the start of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting year now with him being out all last year, basically, and it's. I did a keyword search today because one of the things the fan cited to get your ratings and your reads boosted, you should do keyword searches on certain things, you know. And the top golf person in the world is still Tiger Woods.
Yeah.
And he ranked in a keyword search of he come up 65th. So we actually need him to start winning some tournaments so we can get people to read our blogs again, you know.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but I think it'll be interesting to see if he can come back to some sort of regular, put his fitness problems behind him and actually play more golf than he would usually. You know, he needs to play 25 tournaments. You know, he needs to get out there and play a good run of tournaments.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because he's not going to get paid for his Far East travels anymore, so he probably won't go over there. So, you know, it's going to be an interesting year to say the least as to how many tournaments he plays. There's some golf courses he just won't play anymore because he doesn't like Riviera, for instance, so he don't play there. He doesn't like, you know, he doesn't like the Kikuyu grass.
No.
But yeah, it's going to be an interesting crank up here when it starts.
Very definitely, and obviously the man that fills his absence at the moment, without doubt, is Rory McIlroy. But he is absent from the next 3 European Tour events because of this trial with Horizon Sports Management. Obviously, we won't go into that, but he's going to be missing from the next 3 tournaments, which is a blow to the end of the year. But it gives an opportunity for other players to come back, if you like. And as we discussed off air, Sergio Garcia, who is in second place in the race to Dubai, the only player realistically that can overtake him, has actually ended, I think, any chance of doing that because he's not going to be playing this week. He's playing in the PGA Tour event in Malaysia. So I don't know who advised him, but obviously their maths aren't too good. You get 1.66 million points for winning this week. All the euros have been converted into points, and if he was to win 2 of the events leading up to Dubai, he could actually overtake Rory. But he's obviously lost his abacus.
Yeah.
It's pretty shocking, really. I can't understand why you go and play in the CIMB when next week's event counts for the PGA Tour as well.
Well, it was funny because I was just kind of banging around on the internet when I got back from playing golf, and I thought, I clicked the power rankings on the PGA Tour for this week just to see who they were looking at as being the favorite, and it came up with Sergio Garcia as being the favorite in the power rankings, and I thought, well, maybe I clicked the European Tour instead of the PGA Tour. So I went back and re-clicked it. Sure enough, there he was again. I said, whoa. Why in the world is he not playing in China instead of Malaysia?
Yeah, that is a bizarre decision. When next week counts for both tours, and next week's an $8 million event, so it counts for both tours, and so why, when you've got an opportunity, he's playing well, to put some pressure on Rory going into Dubai, because Rory will be back for Dubai. It doesn't make any sense. It's another harebrained decision from Sergio. As we discussed earlier,
he's one of yours, man. He's not one of ours. So
he's been living over here in your country for a long time. Anyway, Henrik Stenson is also not playing this week. He pulled out late because he's the arrival of his third child. But Justin Rose is playing, Graham McDowell's playing, and many of the other European Ryder Cup players are playing as well. Obviously, the matter at the top of the race to Dubai is really, if Rory was to finish top 5 in Dubai, it's almost over, unless somebody came through and won every event.
Right.
But they have changed the point system, and each event is worth 10 million points, with 1.66 to the winner, just to make it a bit more competitive at the end. But then this is the whole point I was making a couple of weeks ago, was I don't know why the European Tour are trying to get into this, creating a false finish to the season. Rory McIlroy is without doubt the player of the year. He's won 4 European Tour events. He is by far the best player, and they're still trying to falsely create this sense of drama at the end.
Well, that's what they get paid to do, man. That's what their job is, to create viewership and get people to tune in.
But when people tuned in the numbers, because Tiger Woods was playing great golf and winning all the time, Rory McIlroy, to maybe a lesser extent, maybe not this year, he's won 4 times, he's won 2 majors as a WGC, he's doing that, and yet still, if you look at the FedEx Cup, I'll go on about it again, but the FedEx Cup system, now the Race to Dubai system, it would be kind of unbelievable if he was to end up losing both because of a point system. Well,
that's what we signed up for, and that's what we have, is that point system. Now, he won Player of the Year on the PGA Tour, and he's been recognized here as being the best of the bunch this year, but I'm not sure if the FedEx Cup, it's kind of the same thing in NASCAR with the what's called the Sprint Cup series, and for once they actually tweaked the system this year and turned it into where wins in the playoff means more than what they did all year, to create the more drama going down the stretch, to give everybody, they go through these elimination rounds, and by the time they get to the final, there's only going to be 4 drivers that are eligible to win the championship. But yet you've got drivers that have won 4 races this year that are already out of it because they didn't perform down the stretch in this playoff. See?
But there's a difference. As far as my knowledge goes, NASCAR has obviously the Daytona, which is a huge, huge event. But in golf, we have 4 majors, and we've always been told the major championships are the way players are judged and how important they are. And yet, the point system on the PGA Tour and perhaps the European Tour now doesn't reflect their importance. And if you can win 2 of them, and you can win the biggest event on the European Tour and a WGC and still not win the Race to Dubai, I think that shows that your point system, our point system, is totally flawed, and they should just leave it as it is.
But see, the Race to Dubai and the FedEx Cup are not what I deem as deciding if a golfer is great or not. What those 2 events are about is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, if you look at the past FedEx Cup winners, what do you have? 2 or 3 that have actually won major championships. And you had Tiger Woods, you had Jim Furyk, and you had who was it? McIlroy. Well, no, McIlroy's never won the FedEx.
No, Vijay Singh.
Vijay Singh, yeah. That's actually won a major. And look, last year, Stenson won both of them, but he still doesn't want a major on his resume.
Mm.
So I think the majors still define the greatest golfers.
Yeah.
I think the FedEx Cup and the Race to Dubai is just about a lot of money and ratings, TV ratings.
Yeah, I would agree, but it's for me, the European Tour's always had a thing about the whole season, and that's why if you play well throughout the year, you're rewarded by being the best player. Not in opinion, but by fact, because you've earned more money, you've played better.
But I mean, there's no disagreement that Rory McIlroy was the player of the year. I mean, when you win 2 majors back to back and 3 tournaments back to back, the way he did, he's the man. And the rest of it's just all about money and TV rankings.
Well, sure, and this week is a lot of money. It's $7 million. It's the BMW Masters in Shanghai in China. It's 78 players from the European Tour and the world rankings. And it's a Jack Nicklaus designed golf course as well. And then next week you've got the WGC HSBC Champions. That's also in Shanghai. And then off to Turkey and then Dubai. All $7 million leading up to Dubai, which I think is 8.5 or something close to that.
Yeah.
And Dubai is a great finish for the year. The golf course has matured really well in the last 5 years. Next year, I think they're going to the other golf course at the same venue. Both Greg Norman. Jumeirah Golf.
Yeah.
And they're both Greg Norman designs. And that event's getting bigger and bigger every year. Crowds are getting bigger. Prize funds growing. And it's an event in its own right that players want to be in and want to win. And they've changed it this year to make the top 60 available players, so you don't have a situation when there's 57 or 59 players, because players have dropped out even though they qualified. So it's 4 really good weeks on the European Tour to end the global schedule, if you like, and then it all starts again in the 1st of December. So,
well, I try to write about the Race to Dubai as much as I do about the FedEx Cup, and it's still a lot of people in the U.S. do not know or understand what the Race to Dubai is all about. Half of them don't know, unless they're really semi-hardcore golf fans, don't really understand the FedEx Cup. But for sure they don't get into the Race to Dubai and really understand what it's all about.
Also time zones don't help. I mean, with China, it's a really, really early start. Well, it's a late start for you guys. It's sort of 11 o'clock at night, isn't it?
Yeah, the CIMB starts at 11 o'clock tomorrow night, and it's over by, on Saturday night. Well, actually Sunday morning real early.
Yeah.
There's exactly 12 hours difference between Malaysia and Eastern time. So
so that doesn't help for that reason. But it's more about growing. What I would say is growing the game. You've got in Asia this month. You've got several really big events. Dunlop Phoenix in Japan. Keegan Bradley's playing that now. Luke Donald, defending champion. Then you go down to the Australian Open, which is the first qualifying event for next year's Open Championship. And Rory's defending that title. Adam Scott, Jordan Spieth playing in that. And then the Nedbank in South Africa. So there's a lot of big events around the world in the next 5 or 6 weeks.
Well, I find it interesting this week that I'm actually going to get a chance to see. I mean, I've seen Patrick Reed play in the Volvo, but there was a lot of people thought maybe Chris Kirk deserved a shot at the Ryder Cup, and there was even consideration out there for Ryan Palmer, and both of those gentlemen are playing in the BMW this week.
Yeah.
Against the Euros, and I'm really interested to see how they do. And I'm anxious to see mainly about Chris Kirk, how well he does. He's played well throughout the spring. He come close to getting into, I think it was Las Vegas where he got close, but just to see him play with the Europeans, you know, that's big. And Palmer, you know, he has trouble closing things out. He plays well in the first couple of rounds, but he's not a big finisher.
No.
And then of course we got Patrick Reed, who I think he's become a British superstar, hasn't he? Isn't he not? Has he not gotten a little popular over there for coming over there and playing in the Volvo? And
well, I think he got a good reaction from the European players, and they sort of mocked him at the opening event for when he taunted the crowd. They did the same to him. But yeah, I mean, I think because he did quite well in the World Match Play, and I think he's shown he can play in different conditions around the world, and it's good to see him playing. Perhaps he'll be a dual member next year. That'll be good to see, and it's easy to do. I mean, there's eight events that are co-sanctioned, so there's only another 3-4 events for him to play in. So
yeah, I think Koepka's coming over there to play too, because he was on the European Tour last year, and this year he's got his PGA card, but he's still coming back to play at the BMW.
Yeah, well, I think he's still a European Tour member for this season, so yeah, he obviously he's qualified to be in that event. He had a very good Dunhill here in St Andrews, and
well, he had a top 15 at the PGA as well, and he played well in the Open Championship. So, yeah.
So yeah, no, it's good to see, and people like him, Peter Uihlein, still contending around the world. So we were going to talk about the LPGA in Asia and get Elizabeth's views on the Ted Bishop saga, but she's not joining us. So obviously last week you had Blue Bay in China, which is about Leanne Pace, and this week you've got Taiwan, and you've got Inbee Park, who's just become world number 1, and Stacey Lewis, Suzanne Petterson.
I was going to say, don't forget about Suzanne. She won this thing twice in a row now.
Yeah, so it's a big week for her. There's no doubt about that. And we've only got a few more weeks until the end of the season on the LPGA, and it should be another good week, I would imagine, in Taiwan. But unfortunately, we don't see any of it here, so I can't really tell you much about it.
Well, that was one of the questions I had for Elizabeth, because Stacey Lewis has a pretty good lead in that CME Globe race, and you know, is anybody going to catch her? She's got a 1,000-point lead over Inbee Park.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think Inbee obviously won one major this year, and hopefully she can keep it close until the end. And I don't know. I would imagine the point system again at the end. The last event must be worth 10 times a major, I would have thought. But you never know.
Well, they have the same thing on the Champions Tour. You know, they got the Schwab Cup Championship this weekend, and
yeah, that's already.
But yeah, Barnard Longer's already got it sewed up. So
yeah, Monty won 2 majors in a row. Where was the fairness in that?
Hey, it was Longer than missed the putt in '92 at what was it?
Kiawah Island.
Kiawah Island, yeah. So he's got to win something.
He won 2 Masters. He does, I don't
Yeah,
think
he
the
did.
Tourist World Cup comes close to the Masters.
But
does
he
it?
still missed the putt at Kiel Island.
Yeah. That's the thing. You have to look 3 decades back for your last win, or nearly.
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't get into Ryder Cup discussion tonight.
Hey, I was in a bar in right across the street from Windsor Castle during that tournament
Uh-huh.
when Longer missed that putt, and there was some very upset people in that pub. I remember it well. It was the King George pub. Is right there in Eton, just across the bridge from the castle. I had to leave because I felt I was in danger. The American sentiment wasn't very strong that night.
I can imagine it wasn't. Yeah. But yeah, well, but Bernhard Langer has won it, and it's unusual actually that gets decided before the final event. Really, usually it's quite close. But
Yeah.
he's had a lot of really good finishes this year, and he did win the Senior Open by 100 shots. So
Yeah.
um,
No, he
so
deserved it.
he does deserve it.
Title.
Yeah. So that's really it for this week, I would say. We've had a good discussion, Les, and obviously next week we'll be looking forward to the final WGC of the year. No Rory, which is a shame because he really does well on that golf course. But there is a great field from America and Europe and around the world, so we'll look at that, and we're getting ever closer to the end of the LPGA season as well. So, but from myself and from Les, that's good night. We'll see you all again next week.
Cheers, man.